Good morning and welcome to our first Transformation Town Hall of 2022. My name is Courtney Jolly. I'm the Managing Director of Internal Communications at Save the Children. I am thrilled to be here this morning to welcome many members of our senior leadership team as well as several excellent partners, both domestically and internationally, who are affiliated with several of our Save the Children programs. Today's session is going to focus on localization, shifting power to the point of impact. And we do have several partners here today here to share some very specific and personal stories about how these roles and these partnerships are influencing their work both in the United States and across the world. We are recording this session this morning and closed caption has been enabled. You are encouraged at any time to direct any questions to any of the panelists to our Q&A field. And if you have resources or links you'd like to share, please go ahead and put those in the chat. And now to begin our session and to begin to introduce our panelists, welcome David Barth, Vice President for International Programs.
Thanks, Courtney, and hi, everybody. Welcome to what I hope will be our last fully virtual Transformation Town Hall. So hopefully, we'll be at least in part together for the next one. But we've got a good one today, and it's a really important one. The subject matter we're going to take on is what we call localization. You hear it referenced by a bunch of different words. Sometimes it's localization, sometimes it's shifting power, which is what the framing I like. People will talk about decolonialization or decolonization. And we don't want to get hung up on the semantics, but the reason why I like shifting power, what we really are here to talk about is a vision of a Save the Children movement that is built for the modern age, that is getting resources, which is both talent, funding, ideas, as close as possible to where children are, and as authentically from those spaces, as opposed to being injected from outside. It's a vision of a real transformation in how we do our business, and it's one that we're committed to as an institution. Has implications across the board for our vision of what Save US does as part of a movement, and the kind of partners and networks that we seek out. The way we channel our talent, the way we channel our resources. So all those things are being discussed and analyzed across the whole movement. We look at this localization question, the shifting power question, through 7 dimensions, and I won't go through them because you won't remember them. But we're going to talk about them a little bit. But it mixes all these things. How we govern ourselves, the kind of partnerships we have, the kind of capacities that we share, how we coordinate. So we've got 2 of our international partners, one of our US partners, to come and talk to us a little bit about how they see localization, how they benefited from localization, and what their expectations are for Save the Children as an INGO with a 102-year history and all these assets and resources. But how can we be best fit for the coming decades? So expecting a great conversation. We got a lot of time for Q&A, so please push us on this question, ask some hard questions. Luckily, we've got some real expertise on the call are going to be able to help give us a window that maybe we wouldn't be able to give you from just from the vantage point of the SLT. So our other global panelist is Ali Mohammed, and Ali Mohammed is the program director of GRADO, which is the Gargaar Relief and Development Organization that's in Somalia. They've been a partner to Save the Children in Somalia for almost 10 years, for 10 years now, more since 2012, on a bunch of projects, on 19 different projects that have been worth upwards of $12 million. So a significant partner to Save the Children in Somalia. They're our main implementing partner on a USAID humanitarian award that's $23 million to build resilience in communities that have suffered from the humanitarian crisis there. So it's food security and health and nutrition and WASH interventions. Last fall, our PAC team brought GRADO to testify back to DC on the Hill about locally led development, about this very topic, and what local partners are hoping from USAID in their investments, because USAID has been thinking critically about this question for quite some time and made some pretty bold announcements this year about what their expectations were going to be for themselves going forward in terms of how they were funding more directly, how they were empowering local organizations. So Ali, are you there?
Thanks, David, for the
Thanks.
introduction. Good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are. It's an evening for us from our end. I'm joining this call from Nairobi. Pleasure to be part of here. Just for a quick introduction, I'm Ali Mohamed Ali, the program director for Credo, one of the, to say, strong national NGOs in Somalia that operates especially in southern part of Somalia. And we had been operational since 1992, quite big, with 316 staff in general. In terms of partnership, we had been in partnership with Save the Children since 2012 till date, implemented numerous projects over the years, and currently implementing especially an integrated BHA-supported project in Bedowa, where we are running 7 districts in terms of integrated health and nutrition, FSL, child protection, sort of integrated package project implementation. We are also doing with Save the Children other 2 projects. In the country, and we are currently in a discussion to launch another Danida supported project. So this has been the current portfolio that Greta is doing with Save the Children, but we are in other bigger platforms. We are in a joint consortium member with Save the Children also, which Save happens to be a member, the BRICS consortium. We are in another Downwather consortium, and then we do other vast projects in terms of education, resilience building, and also emergency response. So basically that is Credo. And over the years, talking in terms of maybe localization and seeing the way Save the Children is starting from the time of our engagement to this day, I could say there has been a sort of a transformation in terms of adapting localization, especially in the recent years. I remember back in 2012, our relationship was more on sort of a contractual based kind of approach, where you are given a contract just to implement a key activity. So now we have grown that and more into the strategic partnership, where we have to do like joint planning, proposal development as a team, and then having like pre-teaming agreement, which was never there maybe 5-6 years back. So there has been a transition in terms of the shift toward this more engagement, toward this more appetite for local ideas and a local partnership. So coming back to maybe some of my brief recommendation, maybe to Save the Children to further increase in terms of localization aspect, to strengthen or maybe establish a joint partnership in terms of the design and all the process, not only as a member just by name. Maybe Save the Children also to go beyond the donor-driven pressure of local NGO inclusion in the bigger projects, and localization rather to be like a core approach where it has to adapt for any future planning in Somalia, of course, and also globally. Save also to adopt a more contextualized partnership agreement. I'm saying this in the sense that there has to be also some growth within the relationships, so that there has to be more strategic in terms of the partnership category, not sort of dealing directly a 2-year or maybe 1-year partnership NGO and maybe 10 years plus NGOs like Credo. So also to invest in terms of capacity system strengthening, especially for in the areas for Credo to be specific in terms of policy and advocacy, including influencing skills or policy or advocacy. That's also one. Maybe it's for Save the Children to earmark also part or percentage for partners' budget portfolio for indirect costs, allocation for staff development, which some years back was there, but also to give space for national NGOs to be given a space to develop in terms of capacity for national NGOs. And we are not talking only in-house, so we are sort of talking like more technical and a joint learning process for Save the Children. So with those few remarks, I don't know if I have extra time, but my 5 minutes seems to be up.
your 5 minutes are up. We can go back and see if Adam is back online, but let's but keep those thoughts because we're going to have time for Q&A and for additional conversation. But thank you, Ali. Adam, are you there?
Sure. Thanks, Dave. And great to hear from you, Ali and Adam. So in USP, we don't use the exact same language, localization language as our international programs colleagues. But our efforts to shift power and resources as close to the point of impact are really animated by the same sort of 7 dimensions that David alluded to earlier. Quickly, a few points on this. We move staff to the point of impact. The journey for us has been pretty organic because we've leaned on local partnerships for the last 2 decades or so. Really, aside from Head Start, most of our programs are delivered through community-based partners, from our rural schools to service organizations along the southern border in the US, to childcare resource and referral agencies during emergency responses. That feels natural to us. We've also in recent years made a commitment to hiring key program leaders who live close to our partner communities and who share backgrounds and experiences with those communities. We're moving to tailor our community services more, driving decisions to those communities. So we continue to refine and expand our program options, and in consultation with community partners, kind of developing menus of options and services that they can choose from as they deliver their strategies. We're shifting our thinking kind of from a frame of providing capacity to partners towards exchanging capacity with partners. And that shows up certainly in our collective impact approaches, which David Woody will allude to here, and in our building of national networks and communities of practice to connect rural providers, to share and promote best practices and foster innovation across communities, where Save the Children USP is really just offering a platform or opening a forum for that to happen. And then finally, we're really keenly focused now on unlocking resources directly to communities. We're launching a new initiative to provide training and technical assistance in communities to develop and implement public and private fundraising strategies, to include writing grants and managing funds, which Adam was just mentioning on the international front. And also plans to kind of connect with and educate public and private funders along the way, where many of them are talking about equity. We will be pushing them to make funding opportunities more accessible and easier to pursue and manage. So that's how in USP we've been thinking about the shifting power work. I'm really happy to be joined today by Pastor David Woody, who's representing the Cott County Cradle to Career Coalition. We call it C5 for short. And C5's vision is that all Cott County students will graduate from high school with necessary skills to pursue post-secondary opportunities and to become productive citizens. C5 is currently an unincorporated grassroots coalition and in the process of obtaining their 501c3 nonprofit designation here. They currently sit under the umbrella of the county's economic development agency called the Cott County Partnership. We got started with C5 in 2019 when a group of about 24 stakeholders from a range of sectors identified 5 leaders to go through a leadership program. And they have since grown to include a 14-member leadership table, 6 working groups, and more than 125 partners across 8 sectors.
Thank you so much, David. Ali, any thoughts on either those strengths or the areas where really we can improve our relationship with your organization or your community as a partner?
Thanks. Let me start with maybe what we value most in terms of the Save the Children partnership. I could say two. One is the commitment and consistency. Being working in Somalia, which is a multi-phased country with emergencies, droughts, and all that. So Save being in Somali country program, and with that massive portfolio in terms of response and sustain that longer duration, especially the areas that we work in, mostly being some of the hard to reach areas, some of the districts being under siege, literally no other service that comes into that. So being there for that longer period of time, it's maybe since the start of our partnership till date is something that's quite outstanding for Save the Children. Often I see like partners that come with the funding. Emergency strike, like let's say 2011, so many international NGOs came in. By 2012, they were no longer there. But the uniqueness of this is that consistency, maybe that's there. Maybe that's beyond the grade parameters. But for specifically grade, I could say the partnership, not necessarily being value related or money related, but rather having a partnership framework, which is kind of like two sides learning process that we will be partners, maybe do joint assessments, sometimes facilitate ground assessments for them in areas where they don't have footprints. So having that bond relationship, which is not of money attached to that, but if the project comes in, of course, we do have a partnership in terms of implementing that grant, but having that overall holistic partnership, those I think are the two key areas of maybe I could say proud in terms of the Save the Children. And of course, over the years, there has been small kind of investments in terms of capacity building, system building, part of it being in they supported us in developing or maybe strengthening our mid unit where they had to hire a third-party contractor, develop the whole manual and policies tools to sort of improve our accountability also process. That was partly the small areas that you had weakness where they had also supported to sort of improve our institutional capacity in a sense, or maybe operational wise. In terms of improvement, yes, still there is a long way to go, looking especially into Save the Children's diverse partnership, not only to organizations, but also to government institutions, line ministries, working with regional state governments, investing in education, building schools, building government infrastructures, all that kind of wide range of partnership. Of course, there's a lot of gaps that comes with it, but to be precise in terms of maybe for greater, I would say is sort of is strengthen the power shifting process, and also like we kind of establish that relationship, but to be carried forward and maybe to be materialized in the longer term, not only for Greater, but all other national NGOs of Save the Children in Somalia and also globally, to have that sense of equal partnership and not being in a position where maybe it's to tick the box, okay, we have an NGO X in our proposal. So that element still needs some improvement, but generally, I will say the consistency and commitment and also that partnership is what we value the most.
Thanks, Ali. And actually, a question came up in the chat that I think builds on what you just said and may be relevant for David or Adam as well. Among Save the Children's processes in working with your organization, what really demonstrates to you that we have a commitment to shifting power, to putting decision-making in the hands of the people who are most affected by the work that you're doing and by the work that we might support in your area? Could you speak to that a little bit? Ali, you have a hand up. Do you have a few more thoughts on that front?
Yeah, maybe one or two to add on in terms of maybe the SCI's position. In recently Save the Children, especially for Somalia, the commitment and maybe the desire, the drive has been quite increasing in terms of shifting the power and also localization. Especially maybe I want to share a small scenario with the wider audience here, that we had piloted a small grant of localization from SC Norway. which was quite piloting, by the way. It was during the COVID where we have to like do the concept to note, design the whole project for ourselves, and then literally come up with also the reporting template and anything. Nothing that Save the Children sort of dictated, but it kind of also gave us that essence of ownership and being valued in terms of absorbing or creating room for the local ideas and local solutions to the community. That has been what a good example, which is quite what in terms of scaling up, maybe trying or making it quite big. And one more thing in terms of the shift, maybe I don't know if it will fall as a question form, but is maybe what is Save the Children's sort of a position in terms of a strategic wise, but what a strategy is there in terms of making sure that the power is shifted now that the model of partnership had been there over the years. Maybe to my knowledge, since our partnership, we were saying we had been in partnership, signed agreements, implemented projects here and there, a slight improvement recently. But what could be like the end milestone for Save the Children? Like, is they specify the strategy in a 5 years time? Okay, this is what we need to achieve. This is what will be the milestone, or to sort of measure that power shift, not beyond the current model of partnership that's there. Back to you, Courtney.
I certainly also think this is Ali's point of, that that we meet as equals. That it is not that the relationship has to convert from a contractual one where we're just essentially buying services and saying thank you very much to one that is kind of relational and strategic and in some spaces we do that really well, in some spaces we don't. We need to do better, and that's why this project, this reorientation around shifting power is so important, because it is not just the mechanics of the awards we make, but it's actually how we deal in our organizational relationships and our human relationships. So I that's a little bit of what I want to take back, which is, again, we've been talking a lot that shifting power is both a technical programmatic thing you do if you change the way you compete your sub awards or your primes or we sell it, but it's also a lens through which you refract all your decision making and you say, okay, am I doing something right now that is pulling authority, agency, autonomy back to me, or am I doing something that is neutral, or am I doing something that's actually pushing it to other people because I don't need it? And it's a certain humility of saying, even though we have all of this accumulated stuff, money, resources, staff, etc.,